Greetings and welcome to In-Depth. I'm Dike. Rostant. We are speaking with Hassel Thom, president of the Trinidad Hotels, Restaurants and Tourism Association. He joins us to discuss the industry. Mr. Thom, how are you doing?
Mr. Rostant, I'm doing well. I'm thankful for health and strength. So I'm doing well enough to fight another day.
Fabulous to hear. And let me hear a little more destination promotion. And I want to ask about that a little bit because are we doing things a little differently? Do we need to do things a little differently coming out of the pandemic?
Well, I think first we need to do things a little bit more consistently, which is something that we needed to improve on. And that is in my professional opinion. And we have to take into consideration some constraints in terms of budgetary or release or allocation that is available for the government's promotion arm, which is the TTL, Tourism Trinidad Limited. So I know I recently saw a promotion that was done in Holland, and I guess that would be done to promote the KLM flight. So that's a step in the right direction. It's something that I was hoping to see more promotions where we have airlift coming into the island or the destination. And there's a lot more that we have to continue to do. Obviously, it takes resources, but that resource must be applied strategically and not willy-nilly per se when we have, as I said, limited resources. So more can be done. Obviously, it's going to take a collaboration between both the private and the public sector. However, it has always been my firm belief that promoting the destination sits in the hand of the public sector or the state to do that, while the private sector would have to focus on what they offer specifically to the incoming or the people who are attracted to the destination.
But with that in mind, though, and I like the fact that you talk about consistency. So what makes it change from something happening willy-nilly to say, okay, well, this is what works, let's do it like this, and let's do it this way?
Well, I think that has to be driven by a strategic tourism plan. I am aware that the policy document has been written and there has been consultation between the body or the group that were driving the policy document. Now you have to put in place a strategic plan. And if I am not mistaken, that process is beginning with the consultative process and would lead to how you plan out where, when, and how much you promote. So it's a process that is in the making. However, I am certain that we should have releases or funding from the past or the early release that was mentioned in the budget. But it has to be driven by a strategic plan, and that plan must take into consideration we're promoting our strengths, we're promoting what people are looking for, and we are promoting in source markets or new markets that have the ability to get into the destination easily. And at the long end, it should be no more than 8 to 10 hours of traveling for the day to get to the destination. While on the short end, we have the region that we sit within, that's a ready market once we can get flights coming in that are not too inconvenient. And saying so, you don't want, if you're promoting to your regional partners, you don't want someone having to go through Miami or another out of the region airport or hub to get into Trinidad. So we have to look at how we improve connectivity in the areas that we want to promote.
Mr. Thom, you started talking that and I started twitching because I guess we can all talk about some stories. And the way that you say, I am aware, makes me think that if we're not recording, you might have some stories to tell. But I want to get your thoughts though on the tourism accommodation update program. Thanks.
The upgrade program it's an instrumental program for particularly the medium and small entities. I was recently fortunate to be part of the ceremonial signing of the last phase of the program. It's usually done in a 3-year tranche. While you have a certain amount of funding you can access by way of a reimbursable grant over a 3-year period. Right now, it's set at a limit that's, I would say it's reasonable, especially for the size of properties which it's geared towards. However, in my presentation at that ceremony, I reiterated the importance of broadening the scope, meaning while there is a reimbursable grant, which is very good because it helps you to keep your product updated where you can maintain your competitiveness and remain attractive to the market, sometimes it's not as easy for the smaller properties to access it because sometimes most properties, particularly coming out of COVID, may have to look at accessing loans. And from that aspect, we have to look at how do we bring the banking sector on board, because the industry was one of the hardest hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. And we also had to take into consideration the border closures would have significantly disrupted travelers in and out of the country for very good reasons when we are trying to protect our citizens based on what capacity we think we could have accommodated in cases. However, going forward, we have to look at how the smaller entities, because the destination should be able to offer accommodation products at all levels. All should meet a minimum standard, and all should be at an acceptable standard for someone traveling into the destination to immerse themselves either through culture, culinary, nature, which is eco, apart from our primary visitors, which is driven mainly through business travel. So if we have to look at how the tour program can benefit us, we have to look at, one, the accessibility, two, maybe the quantum that's made available so more people can participate or benefit from it. And once we get back to some level of normality in terms of travel, business, we look at the possibility of how we can expand it in terms of the quantum that's made available to any one entity who are eligible for the program.
And now you talk about quantum, you think, and has me thinking about numbers. You started to break down into different niches or types of tourism and looking at how we can include different people. So we're going to touch on all of those topics when we return from this break. We are speaking with the THRTA president, Mr. Hassel Thom. Stay with us. We return with more. Welcome back. We are speaking with Hassel Thom, the president of the Trinidad Hotels, Restaurants and Tourism Association, and inclusiveness in tourism, Mr. Thom. What does that mean to you?
Well, if I look at inclusive, I have to look at all the elements of our tourism value chain. I look at your hotels, you look at airlines or transit coming into the destination, where people sleep, where they eat, where they can experience or become immersed in our culture or sites and attraction. The players included taxi service, tour operators, destination management companies. So unfortunately, for it to work well, you want or you need all elements of that value chain to be working well. And that I just highlighted the private sector mainly there. It doesn't at all exclude the public state entities, ensuring that the systems for persons coming through immigration is in place. Immigration officers are tourism or customer oriented, other than doing what is required to ensure that they protect illegal stuff from coming into our borders, how our taxi service interacts with the tourists or non-nationals, how our service is delivered in the hotels and restaurants and anywhere that are high touch points for non-nationals coming into the destination. Because at the end of the day, what you want to do is make a positive impact and a good impression at all points, touch points for them. So when they go, they themselves want to be ambassadors for the destination in terms of being able to recommend. But to do that, we have to ensure that the necessary investment goes into our plans, our people, and our products.
And I really like that you wrote and spell, or read and spell for me, in the sense that that value chain, sometimes it can feel as though one or two links need a little soldering. But even looking at the fact that there may be individuals who touch that value chain, they may not be high touch points, but what individuals who may be perceived to be outside of that value chain still have a part to play. The person who goes to something in Trinidad and decides, okay, well, I care about that, pick up my litter, and they leave it there, somebody will deal with it. And how else do people interact with that value chain, even if they don't realize that they're doing that, Mr. Thom?
Well, you actually, it's when you travel to a destination, your interaction with the value chain is seamless and non-stop. Because everyone that you come into contact with plays a role in your experience in the destination. So if we want to we have to set the right example as a destination. So you don't want people to litter. You show that your area is clean. You show that care for your environment. It can be done through signage, through our actions. Someone inadvertently litters, you advise them, hey, that's not the way. We have bins. You have bins all over the place. You have proper signage. A long time ago, there was this advert by Solid Waste Charlie. It's like something like carry a clean scene or something along that line. So if I draw a contrast between the Twin Island destination, what you see in Trinidad in terms of the level of litter is not the same in Tobago. And if I take Tobago and compare it against Nassau or one of the Bahamian islands, it's even cleaner. You see less because they understand, and we must understand the importance of setting the right example, and in so doing, create value for the people who want to visit our destination. You promote value added to your clients coming in. They appreciate it, and they also become protective of it. So you won't see people drinking, throwing a bottle into the street that ends up in our waterways, that comes back and assists with the nemesis of flooding. So we have to do it right. We have to set the right process, protocols, and the pace for the people who we bring here to have an experience, so that when they are here, one, they see it in action, and two, they understand, listen, when they have left that destination, if they have the opportunity to go a destination one that's similar, we want Trinidad to be top of mind. So we have to do what is best for the industry. We have to do what is best for the environment. And that, I think, collaboratively, that would help setting the trend, the tone, and the right example for persons visiting the destination.
I like the fact that you talk about best practice. In terms of best practice, what are some of the niches that you think we have good opportunities, good windows, the ability to maximize on? I know you spoke about eco, you spoke about business, I think, as well. What are some of those other things that we have
I think the destination, sorry for cutting in there a little early, I think the destination has a very good potential if we look at bird watching, we look at the sporting investments that we have, the structures that we've put down into this country. That's another area we can get into. A good example of that is we are hosting the 2023 Junior Commonwealth Games. And that is a prime example of how we can showcase to the world what we have to offer. We have to also ensure that we have the proper maintenance program in place and protection in place by way of not only actions, by legislation as well, particularly for if we are looking at bird watching. I mean, we have the swamp. We need to ensure that people are not poaching what people are coming to see. We have tarpon fishing, which is rated as one of the best in the Western Hemisphere in our Gulf of Paria. When we look at bird watching, we look at the amount of species per square mile. It's comparable to, it gives us that very high rating and would be in line with Guyana or even Central America for any other island in the Caribbean island chain. So we do have what we can use, some of those aspects that we can use to capitalize on. What we need to do more is make sure that the people who want to do these things know that they're here. And it ties right back to making people aware, making the ease of access there, and ensuring that the service levels from the start of their journey, once they get on that flight to come into Trinidad, or our gate coming into Trinidad to come to Trinidad, the service levels are at the optimum, where it leaves a positive impression on the mind of the traveler or the potential travelers.
And it's interesting that you say that, because when you talk about hosting for the games, one, I think of people using the infrastructure that has been built for that, but also the fact that you are going to be housing bodies and people need a place to stay. So there's that aspect of it as well. I'm asking you to speak to that and anything else that you'd want us to get out there in the final minute and a half. Thank you.
All right, so because we have infrastructure, sporting infrastructures and a sporting cluster that ranks very high in the region and in the hemisphere when it comes to swimming, when it comes to cycling facilities. I mean, we recently became a UCI satellite training facility for cyclists. So that's a big plus for us. Our sporting in terms of swimming and diving at the aquatic center is highly rated, and this is feedback that we receive over the years since it's been open from the American and Canadian participation from the colleges that have come to do warm weather training, which incidentally is a great window for most of the hotels in Trinidad, because it's usually the period when the corporate and blue collar workers who come to work in Trinidad would usually go home to be with their families, etc. So it creates that period where we capitalize on what would have usually been a lower occupancy demand period. And even though it's short term, it brings a new market. And that we can look at a spin-off other than sporting from the people who come for warm weather training. We give them the opportunity to experience our culture in terms, because usually it's about band launchings, about the pan sites getting ready. And we also allow them to see what our sites and attractions are. And yes, they may come from countries that have vast expanses and different things to see, but we are unique in our own way. We are authentic in how we put forward our services. And that in itself gives us the opportunity to be looked at in a different light. So they may have come here to do training as coaches or as athletes or compete, but then they may look at it as a destination that where the weather is good, the people are friendly, everything is easy to get to. And the way that we carry ourselves, we promote ourselves, lends to people wanting to come back to experience more in an immersive way.
I really like that point you make about having people come for one thing and then come back for another thing. And this even goes back to the Calypso, well, you could bet your life I'm coming back and I'll bring my wife, this kind of way. So turning people into ambassadors. We want to thank you very much, Mr. Thom Hassel, Thom, President. And you're looking as though you're an ambassador for the thing itself. I can feel the passion. President of the Trinidad Hotels, Restaurants and Tourism Association. And on behalf of the entire crew here at TTT News, I'm Dike Rostant. This has been In Depth with me. Thank you so much for joining us.